Begin transmission. This is a message from the anonymous charity also known as The Collective. Today's broadcast date is December 13, 2018. This is part 2 of our series, Pandora's Box. Make sure you look through the links below that relate to this transmission. Please also note, it is important that you, the viewer, understand something before we go any further. We, the collective, do not create this content for your admiration or applause. We do not seek laurels or your kind words. Our goal is, and always has been the same. Provide the people with the truth. Help the helpless. Speak for those without a voice. Bring justice for the oppressed. Now, with that being said, let's delve into part 2. Biohacking. Kernel was launched in 2016 by entrepreneur Brian Johnson and instantly invested $100 million into developing brain implants to enhance your natural intelligence with artificial intelligence, naturally. Brian Johnson is experimenting with Theodore Berger, of the University of Southern California on the hippocampus, a brain region key for memory. Johnson states, "Once we learn how a healthy brain functions, we should eventually be able to mimic it. Because as we all know, the human brain doesn't change and grow and expand throughout our entire lives, it simply stays set on its set track like a coded computer. This insanity must end. There is no way to compare the human brain to a computer, as our brains are not coded and controlled but free." Nevertheless, Berger has already had some success with animals. So now he has rushed into experiments on people. Zoltan Istvan, a 2016 US presidential candidate, revealed the details of 2 of his friends who were planning experimental implantation in order to be able to directly communicate with artificial intelligence. We now know that these so-called aliens are interdimensional entities that D-Wave and CERN have heralded in years ago using quantum computing in the Large Hadron Collider. The technology will allow them to carry out basic conversations telepathically. Istvan is the global leader of the transhumanist movement, which believes human beings should use technology to artificially boost their intelligence or physical prowess. As far as telepathy goes, the US government has put much of its plummeting currency into this already. DARPA has invested $65 million and their scientists are expected to weave together a vast network of neurograins, which can be worn as implants in the cerebral cortex. Packed with sensors, the implants will detect how the brain processes and decodes spoken language so it can be interpreted and understood by computers. Mind-reading tech will naturally also communicate with computers and control machines using the power of thought. Former DARPA program director, Dr. Philip Alveda, said a Rice and Yale University team had created an interface with the consistency of tissue paper that could be laid over the brain beneath the skull to decode and trigger neurons. Alveda said such work was helping scientists understand how vision or hearing was represented in the brain and move work towards what he calls a technologist's wet dream of being able to see out of someone else's eyes. People like this should not be allowed to live, let alone gain any position of power or responsibility. Alveda said regulations from the FDA meant invasive implants that required a skull to be opened could only be used to benefit people who were willing to take a surgical risk to overcome a serious deficit. He states, "They're going to be inside people within 2 years." Alveda is founding chief executive of Cortical AI, and has been experimenting on conjoined twins from Canada. Using a functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, one can see that the twins' brains are connected via a single passage which leads into each thalamus. He states, "Now we have a blueprint for a direct interface from one brain to another." It used to be people were upset and appalled by the Nazi doctor's child experimentation, but today it is commonplace and twins are still a focus group. We, the collective, find this is absolutely disgusting. The FDA has approved implantation in humans, meaning soon prisons, hospitals, and companies will use chips to track people's locations, medical history, and to grant or deny access to rooms and documents. Many U.S. state correctional facilities are already using the technology to monitor the inmates' behavior and location. FEMA has also been shipping the homeless it rounds up. Scientists at Kyoto University in Kyoto, Japan released the results of their recent research on using artificial intelligence to decode thoughts on the scientific platform, by OSIF. The scientists state, the visualization technology would allow you to draw pictures or make art simply by imagining something. Your dreams could be visualized by a computer, the hallucinations of psychiatric patients could be visualized, and brain-machine interfaces may allow communication with imagery or thoughts. The DARPA programs of Tony Tether, Colonel Jeffrey Ling and NIH programs of William Heatdix had been protected as a defense special access programs, the official terminology for a black project. The research resulted in implantable devices that were millimeter and submillimeter in size, which could be implanted and provided absolute surveillance capability regarding a subject's activities, which might include visual and auditory biofeedback data. These implants had been fabricated in a manner that the devices could not be detected or localized by clinical, medical or radiology techniques. The Pentagon's DARPA conducted research and development in augmented cognition, aka cognitive science. Studying how information is represented and transformed in the brain. The Pentagon's stated purpose was for military applications, including manipulating the emotions and behavior of adversaries. This technique has been used worldwide by the US government in false flag operations inside the USA and out, and is applicable individually, for crowd control, or larger groups, using millimeter waves, pulsed energy projectiles, and high-power magnetic weapons. Subjects remain unaware of what's hitting them. In the 1970s, scientists at Lawrence Livermore Laboratories developed what they called a brain bomb, a low-frequency energy weapon which could be used on a battlefield to liquidate the brains of thousands of soldiers at one time. This was used in the Gulf War. In countries like Iraq and Afghanistan, Project Sheriff was used against combatants and non-combatants alike. Humvees and armored personnel carriers retrofitted with non-lethal weapons, including microwave-like pain rays, an active denial system, and a long-range acoustic device emitting ear-splitting sounds. HAARP, aka the High Frequency Active Auroral Frequency Program, was established in 1933. It was a joint program between the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Navy, the University of Alaska at Fairbanks and DARPA, aka Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Officially it was shut down in 2014, but we have already discussed how it continues to be used today. DARPA also continues the research focusing on the effects of these frequencies on the individual human being. The Internet was launched and funded by the US military as ARPANET in the 1970s. ARPA later became DARPA. On August 6, 1991, the Internet went live to the world, and we can see how far they have come in the past short decades. As more people are exposed to HAARP's most widespread low-frequency weapon, school shootings spiked, health problems increased, life expectancy began a rapid decline, families disintegrated, and American society embraces its dark trends as normal. DARPA's latest AI brain implant is capable of detecting a person's mood, then issuing an electrical shock to change it. This new form of electroshock therapy is now being actively tested on human beings. Same Nazi experiments. Nothing is new. This implant is being targeted for people with chronic depression, PTSD, Parkinson's, and a host of assorted issues. The usual suspects, the elderly, the sick and the young. They always target the defenseless whom they have discredited first. Google has patents for their AI implant as well as a needle-free blood draw device that can be implanted in a wearable dubbed the Vampire Watch. It works by blasting a gas-powered microparticle into the skin and then draws a small vial of blood into a pressurized container. Google, and many international corporations working on chips and biohacking cannot run their tests and produce their product in the US, or many of their respective countries, as the health regulations don't allow it legally. As we have exposed before, South America is owned by the CIA and is one of their main lab areas where they are easily able to carry out their black ops and human experimentation. It is in this location where products are made and tested. In August 2014, IBM announced the most advanced brain-like chip created to date, the True North chip. It is 768 times more efficient than any other that has been built. The absence of official, clinical studies on human beings is really striking, not to mention impossible. But these companies rave to you how their product is safe and convenient. They never tell you how they figure that out. Recent scientific research has led down the trail to forced in-human experimentation with brain implants, for example, in manufacturing neuromorphic chips like the True North IBM chip, in the European Human Brain Project and the US Brain Project, and more. Multiple researchers have reported forced human experimentation with nanobots in Latin American hospitals, though medical staff remain silent on the issue. Just as they always have. Just as they stayed silent during the Dirty War when Pope Francis was raping and trafficking their children while sending them to be tortured to death by the military. All of their wars have involved human experimentation, bio and chemical warfare and horrific tortures. To see the true heart of the CIA, look no further than forcibly impoverished South America. Alan Garcia is considered one of the most corrupt politicians in Peru and was chosen by the United Nations to develop the Peru node of the Millennium Project, a program in place to develop the so-called global intelligence or brain net worldwide. Garcia advises the Ryder Group, the Latin American branch of this project. Bill Mares, founder and former CEO of Google Ventures, has launched Calico, a company whose sole aim is to solve death. Amazon has been working on artificial intelligence for at least 4 years and now has 1,000 employees working on Alexa, the company's voice-based smart assistant software system. IBM CEO Ginny Rometty said the company has been working on artificial technology, which she calls a cognitive system, since 2005 when it started developing its Watson supercomputer. She states, "I would say in 5 years. There's no doubt in my mind that cognitive AI will impact every decision made." Well, 5 years has long passed and one should be able to realize how this is already true, though naturally not noticed on the surface. Microsoft is working on getting a patent on a system that turns thoughts into action, based simply on brain input. Already, Microsoft's free app Seeing AI narrates the world around a person, describing objects, text, and people. You can discern colors, friends, brightness levels of the environment, and more. Microsoft is also using the publicly accepted medical side to further their tech. Gizmodo.com web link. BBC News says we are a step closer to microchips that can be, quote, implanted under a patient's skin to control the release of drugs. In fact, they have already been advertised as in use, in many countries. 8 women were given the chips filled with a drug to combat osteoporosis. The drug, teriparatide, is normally delivered by daily injection, but researchers found that using the chips produced similar physical results to injections. In one patient, feedback from chip indicated that the drug was not being released. The results from this patient were naturally excluded from final results. Potential uses of the device, including allowing psychiatrists to trigger doses in schizophrenic patients when they resist injections of medication. This is comforting, knowing full well how misdiagnosed and mistreated most of these people are. The study was carried out by researchers from Microchips Incorporated, a private company producing medical microchips for profit, the Harvard Medical School, Case Western Reserve University, On Demand Therapeutics Incorporated, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It was funded by Microchips Incorporated c. Results in writing must always look nice, otherwise all the money would not go to them. Common sense. But the public trusts things if they are called official documents or reports, as they have lost the ability to simply look at the world around them instead of floating through it oblivious to reality. Biomedical Enterprises has a patent for what they call system and method for force, displacement and rate control of shape memory material implants. Now the BME owns the market exclusivity for the control of memory materials used in medicine. This advanced technology for the use of shape memory materials, including nitinol, allows the surgeon for the first time to fully control a shape-changing implant called Simprop. The implant also gives surgeons the ability to control the activation rate of the implant and the forces applied across the bone fusion interface. These variables are controlled while keeping the implant temperature below the point of thermal necrosis of tissue. One hopes, at any rate. Of course, should any break in connection occur between the internet transmissions to the AI, the results would be as devastating as any other implant, but this one is fused to your bones as well. Titan Spine, LLC is another one. This privately owned medical implant company is focused on the design and manufacturing of proprietary interbody fusion devices for the spine. They have also received exclusive patents, allowing them to rise to the top of their area of research in fusing bone with machine. A clear discrepancy between theoretical calculations and clinical observation has arisen in researching the effects of implants, not just in animals but in humans, as one should guess. Several case reports mention serious injuries and death after MRI or diathermy exposure of patients bearing implanted medical devices. A 70-year-old patient implanted with a deep brain stimulation device ended up in a vegetative state after diathermy treatment of maxilla. This complication most likely resulted from current induction by radio frequencies and heating of the electrodes. Other complications reported in patients with implanted deep brain electrodes following MRI scans of their head include transient dystonia and blism of one leg or lumbar spine. This happens from medical device frequencies when coming in contact with other outside frequencies. Think of how many devices you pass and hold every day. All of the radio frequencies that are pushed on you through security scanners, cash registers, phones, tablets, watches, glasses, and all technology devices. Now imagine you are one of the people whose body cannot handle the constant bombardment. You will only find out if you survive the implant and frequencies from it, after you have it inside of you. DARPA Director Regina Dugan now works at Google, with CEO and Bilderberger member Eric Schmidt to promote smart tattoos, a biometric chip which will be used to access the integrated 5G reality which is being rapidly rolled out. A Google-owned company is working on digital tattoos that could connect to smartphones and gaming devices and that could even serve as lie detectors, according to the patent it filed. Known as the Internet of Things, 5G accesses hundreds of billions of microchips which will permeate our possessions, our homes, our cars, our neighborhoods and our emotions, minds, and bodies. Chemtrails or SAI, also known as stratospheric aerosol injection, have been the most effective way to infiltrate our bodies with aluminium, which is the best conductor for plugging us into the 5G smart grid. Besides chemtrails, we have been pumped full of GMOs and sugar for generations, all programmable and DNA-altering materials, which is a main reason why so many can no longer use their own brains to think or learn. Researchers at Tel Aviv University are also developing a bionic eye using nanotechnology. Tel Aviv University was chosen to manage the Nano2 Life Foundation, intended to encourage research projects in the field of nanobiology in Israel, in collaboration with the European Union. The Center for Nanoscience and Nanotechnology at TAU has created a first-of-its-kind drug against cancer, a targeted drug that makes surgical intervention unnecessary as well as an organic material stronger than steel used for construction and much more. Their areas of study include tissue regeneration, drug delivery and solar energy harvesting. The center has 8 operating laboratories and about 50 core research groups. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg hired Google's Regina Dugan, the former director of DARPA, to run his company's experimental technologies division, known as Building 8. The division now has 60 full-time scientists and engineers and hundreds of millions in funding. Zuckerberg envisions a platform that lets you communicate using only your mind. The recent Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal exposed once again how Facebook is being used as an emotional dossier gathering tool on each individual for later use by DARPA in their 5G control matrix. Still, no one gives a second thought, as Facebook continues to thrive. AI will not only read your mind, control your thoughts, predict your future, control your banking, employment and medical factors, but the almighty AI will even give sight to the blind. A report on December 11, 2018 stated that Facebook AI can now predict where you will be before you actually get there. Bionic eyes are a very active area of research and production. New implantables can now put internet-fed cameras in the windows to your soul, under the guise of restoring sight to the blind. There are 2 groups in Australia focused on this. Bionic Vision Technologies is preparing to conduct a second human study and commercialize its retinal implant. The other is the Monash Vision Group, which is developing a system that interfaces directly to the brain, bypassing the retina and optic nerve, so that it is suitable for patients with damage to either or both of those structures. The NSA's Signals Intelligence, SIGINT, involves decoding EMF waves to tap into computers wirelessly and track people. Using EMF brain stimulation to monitor individuals, organizations and nations, it complements the CIA, DIA, Human Intelligence, HUMINT, and National Geospatial Intelligence Agency's Imagery Intelligence, IMINT. NSA's DOMINT can track millions of people simultaneously. It can also inflict harm, control subjects psychologically and kill. This is now science fact. Pulsed energy projectiles, PEPs, travel nearly at the speed of light. With pinpoint accuracy, they emit invisible laser pulses, electromagnetic radiation, stunning targets, knocking them off their feet, paralyzing them in pain. Their long-term effects are unknown, as they are undocumented and untracked, including effects on the brain. Documents from multiple Freedom of Information Act requests, and leakers, expose some of the US government's psychoelectronic weapon effects. It is all there for you to read, if you just look. So, the anonymous charity asks you, what is the NSA really? Do you know? Let's take a peek. President Truman created the super-secret National Security Agency by a secret executive order on November 4, 1952. Its primary purpose is to decipher alien communications and language and establish a dialogue with the what they call aliens, which we have proven before are simply demons and the fallen ones who the elite worship and obey. This most urgent task was a continuation of the earlier effort and was codenamed Sigma. This was all done because there had been a spike in contact with the fallen. Between January 1947 and December 1952, at least 16 crashed or downed alien craft, 65 alien bodies, and 1 live alien were recovered. An additional craft had exploded and nothing was recovered from that incident. Of these incidents, 13 occurred within the borders of the United States, not including the craft which disintegrated in the air. 1 was in Arizona, 11 were in New Mexico, and 1 was in Nevada. 1 was in Norway, and the last 2 were in Mexico. Sightings of UFOs were so numerous that serious investigation and debunking of each report became impossible, utilizing the existing intelligence assets. The secondary purpose of the NSA is to monitor all communications and emissions from any and all devices worldwide for the purpose of gathering what they call intelligence, which is data, both human and alien, and to contain the secret of the fallen one's presence. After a short time, It was decided that an outside group was necessary to coordinate and control international efforts in order to hide the secret from the normal scrutiny of governments by the press. The result was the formation of a secret society known as the Bilderbergers. The NSA is here to communicate with Lucifer and the Fallen, to log all of your information and save it just for them. To keep the Fallen's activities hidden from you. This may seem far-fetched to you as you hear us say the words. But let us, the collective, remind you, the viewer. We are non-political, non-religious. We have no agenda other than the fact that we need the public to know the truth. For with truth comes understanding. However hard that pill may be to swallow, it is the truth. With understanding comes hope, with hope comes action. And with action comes change. But we digress. Back to the NSA now. The NSA uses their remote neural monitoring, RNM, technology to control the brain under the objective to detect any criminal thought taking place inside the mind of a possible culprit. Predictive crime. West Midlands Police of West Midlands in England will soon be deploying artificial intelligence to stop crime before it happens. The pre-crime software, called the National Data Analytics Solution, NDAS, get that? Solution ! Uses a blend of AI, citywide smart cameras, and statistics to try to evaluate the risk of someone committing and or becoming a victim of a violent crime. 8 other police forces across the country are involved in the development, including London's Metropolitan Police and Greater Manchester Police. They are selling it as a cost-saving tool. Officer Donnelly insists those algorithms will sniff out already known criminals, and divert them with what he calls therapeutic interventions, such as support from local health or social workers to avert a crime. This pig actually thinks the public will buy that pitch. Sadly, he is right. People are so brain dead they will believe it. Predictive policing is based on prior criminal stats, including stops, arrests, and convictions, and it is supposedly incapable of expanding the pool of suspects beyond the database. Voice-to-skull directed acoustic devices are neuroelectromagnetic non-lethal weapons, which we have mentioned before, is able to produce mood-altering sounds in a person's head. This information is transmitted by satellite extra-low frequencies, ELF, to send voice-to-brain communications. With its speech, auditory and visual communication systems, RNM allows for a complete audio-visual brain-to-brain link, or a brain-to-computer link. RNM can also detect hearing via electromagnetic microwaves, and it also features the transmission of specific commands into the subconscious, producing visual disturbances, visual hallucinations and injection of words and numbers into the brain through electromagnetic radiation waves. What some call schizophrenia, bipolar and multiple personality disorders. People with mental health issues have already been fully discredited and written off thanks to the elite's indoctrination of the masses and mistreatment of those suffering. Also, it manipulates emotions and thoughts and reads thoughts remotely, causes pain to any nerve of the body, allows for remote manipulation of behavior, controls sleep patterns through which control over communication is made easy. The Ground Wave Emergency Network, GWEN, works in conjunction with HARP and the Russian Woodpecker transmitter. The Russians' smaller version of weather engineering system is called ELATE, which can fine-tune weather patterns over a 200-mile area and have the same range as the GWEN unit. An ELATE system operates at Moscow Airport. These systems are tailored to the geomagnetic field strength in each area, allowing the magnetic field to be altered. GWEN's transmitters consist of 91-meter copper wires poked into the base of the system underground, in order to interacting with the Earth, radiating radio wave energy for very long distances through the ground. The United States is bathed in this magnetic field which can rise from the ground up to 152 meters, but also goes deep down into basements. The entire artificial ground wave spreads out over the whole of the USA, Russia and many other countries, just like a web. It is easier to mind control and hypnotize people who are bathed in an artificial electromagnetic wave, especially after having infected them with chemtrail particles. The functions of GWENT transmitters include controlling the weather, mind control, behavior and mood control, and sending synthetic telepathy as infrasound to victims with government mind control implants. The Earth's electromagnetic cavity is the space between ground and the ionosphere. These Earth brain waves are identical to the frequency spectrum of our human brain waves. Go figure. The Earth's magnetic field helps birds and fish to navigate among many other things such as keeping our oceans in place, rivers running, and more. It is because of this magnetic force we stay on the ground. This is what science idiots call gravity. The 5G system can travel over half of a mile or 0.8 kilometers. 5G uses higher millimeter wave, mmW, frequencies never before used for internet and telecommunications technology. Get ready to be dosed. Long-range acoustic devices, LRADs, are used for crowd control. They emit verbal challenges over distances beyond 500 meters, with warning tones to influence behavior. They can also inflict physical harm, manipulate minds, and cause death. MIT has always been a pioneer in envelope-pushing medical advances. Recently much of its focus has been on AI and machine learning. SAIL researchers have advertised that they are exploring ways AI can be deployed to improve electronic health records, streamlining Equidata and helping with predictive models. Remix is a new technology in the works at MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory and is being developed with help from clinicians at Massachusetts General Hospital. It depends on complex algorithms to work, meaning it uses quantum computing and also leverages other technologies. It is able to spot the location of ingestible implants by way of low-power wireless signals. The field of augmented cognition includes transcranial magnetic stimulation, DMS, used therapeutically and for military purposes. The latter is to emit close proximity electrical impulses to the brain to affect mood, sleep patterns, and improve cognitive abilities in areas of learning, memory, attentiveness, visualization, and decision-making. The long-term neurological effects are for all of these currently running programs and device implants and frequencies are unknown. They never test the products, and when they do not test them for long enough amounts of time to see long-term results. Another US military program is called Nanodomestic Quell. The device mimics a flu virus, and is used on the public in the instance of domestic uprisings, riots and armed resistances. The nano devices were in an estimated 98% of the US population by 2014. The virus outbreak can scale from individual or group targets, or to a large citywide outbreak. Mind-reading technologies use EEC with decoding of neurological signals remotely, with or without an implant, through satellite or through TV mobile transmission towers. Scientists believe the weak radio emission of a cubic centimeter of brain matter is within the detectable limits of the satellite. It was technically possible for a satellite to detect your thoughts, emotions and perceptions, and pass that information to a computer for interpretation. NASA's Voyager and others are able to be used for this, and now you realize the real purpose of satellites. CERN scientists have reported seeing demons during some of their experiments, as have other tech wizards involved in quantum computing. D-Wave's very own Geordie Rose is quoted as saying, "These things we are summoning into the world now are not demons, not evil, but more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. They are entities not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want." He goes on further to state that this is happening in the background while people bicker about politics. Underneath it all, it is this rising tsunami that, if we are not careful, is going to wipe us all out. Though we have previously exposed CERN before, we will briefly remind you as they talk about this openly now. The terminology used by these physicists and scientists, or should we say, occultists, is obvious. Geordie Rose even said recently of his meeting with demons, but we still have to push on and hopefully we won't destroy the world in the process. Those consumed by the religion of science are usually blind to humanity and utterly lacking in ethics. CERN is deliberately generating dark matter, which is then funneled into the cloud, keyword meaning the world brain. It will listen, watch, remember and act. Remember we previously discussed how 5G enables the quantum computers which are able to read and interpret the data from all of the implants, other devices and especially CERN, so the elite may perfect their craft and complete their agenda, lest we forget what all of this is truly for. So where does responsibility lie if a person acts under the influence of their brain implant? As these implants can enable one to be controlled and do, hear, say or think anything programmed. This technology enables them to track and monitor your thoughts, thereby making them able to predict what they think you will do in life. Nothing in our human existence is more vital to independence and freedom than the privacy of our thoughts. Just know everyone's thoughts are able to be logged, just like a Facebook feed, in real time. Just your constant stream of thoughts, be they mindless wanderings, personal, criminal, or what have you. Enter the thought police. Artificial intelligence will be able to overwrite, modify or delete information aka thoughts, memories, knowledge it decides is no longer needed. A major component to what makes us all unique is what we learn and how we think. Our unique and different experiences and choices make us different individuals. Painting the canvas of humanity with our many beautiful colors. Once you're plugged in, all of your beauty and perfect humanity will be gone forever. Electronic engineer and biohacker Brian McAvoy has designed the first internal compass, and will be the first test subject. The South Pole works by sealing a miniature compass inside a silicon coat, within a rounded titanium shell, to be implanted under the skin. The Circadia microcomputer developed by Biohack.me offshoot company Grindhouse Wetware, was implanted into CEO Tim Cannon's arm last year, and was able to collect and transmit temperature data via Bluetooth. He states, "If better models come out every 18 months I would buy them." The way people are with cell phones, I feel the same way about implants. That is the mindset they have created in us with technology. It has purposely been flooded into the public, updated and requiring you to buy the latest every year. The same with the speed of the internet. They want to push more frequencies into you, so they tell you 3G is slowing down as they amp up 4 and 5G. They make the new products incompatible with all older versions and you stay in the trap of buy and what's coming out next month. It's a circus, keeping you distracted and paying buckets of money for your own demise. Grindhouse Wetwares has a project called Bottlenose that captures sonar, ultraviolet, Wi-Fi, and thermal data and transmits information about these invisible fields to implanted magnets. Another implant company with an obvious name is called Dangerous Things. Founder and CEO Emil Grafstra started Dangerous Things after implanting himself with a chip that allows him to enter his house, log onto his computer, start his motorcycle and even activate his smart gun, all with just the wave of a hand. He implanted because he kept locking himself out of his workplace. Sounds like a super smart guy. Dangerous Things sells a do-it-yourself implant kit for only $100. As all overnight millionaires, he started this business right out of his basement. Making implants and shipping them out to people from the comfort of his own home. Seems people of faith he has a medically sterile and state-of-the-art basement for creating these things. But we have brains instead. Dangerous Things is partnered with Chip My Life and Diggy whose motto is upgrading humans. Besides implants, Diggy sells smart food, smart beverages and smart pills and is the leading supplier of biohacking and human augmentation products in Europe. They sell implanting kits for $77 and state the key question and concern from their idiot public is, will it hurt? If this is the key question, then there is no more to say. To the people wondering what an implant feels like, we are certain it feels like sugar plums and snowflakes. Amol Grafstru is also the creator of VivoKey. VivoKey is the world's only implantable 13.56 MHz ISO 14443A smart card capable of running Java card applets. Based on the SmartMux 2P60 by NXP, it will allow users to deploy applets from partners, published on an open applet store. Your very own smart card implant. The way these people talk, one assumes if their heads were not attached they would be left behind. Instead of using one's brain and having some small amount of responsibility, they would rather have a computer do it for them. And so we march down the road of stupidity all the way to our destruction. Another gem in our travels is biohacker Josiah Zayner. He injected his arm on Livestream with untested DNA encoding for CRISP that could theoretically enhance his muscles. Zayner's company called the Odin Cells Do-It-Yourself CRISP Hits and has started a small wave of self-injecting and self-implanting of CEOs of other biomedical companies such as Aaron Track, CEO of Ascendance Biomedical, who injected himself on Facebook Livestream with untested HIV treatment. This is what comes of mindless people allowed to do mindless things and have access to technologies they don't even try to understand. This will be your child. Why? Because this is the stuff they watch, what is absorbed into their minds, stunting their thinking, and besides that, they have been drinking the Kool-Aid since they were born. Then we have Silicon Valley's Russian millionaire Sergey Forget, who thinks pills, injections and implants will turn him into a superhuman. CEO of multiple international startups, he has spent $200,000 on biohacking thus far. Forget intends to live forever, merging with robots and becoming an ultra-human. He wears an Oura smart ring to measure his sleep patterns. To enhance his already perfect hearing, he inserts a $6,000 pair of hearing aids when in public. A monitor that continuously measures his glucose levels, sending data to his smartphone, is implanted under the subcutaneous fat on his superhuman belly. He takes 60 pills a day, including SSRI antidepressants, lithium, estrogen blockers. This is the definition of a super happy human. Believing in pills and artificial everything to fill the hole he has in his super empty heart, which only creates an entirely artificial life. People are cowards to reality. Afraid to take a hold of life by the horns and live. Biohackers are wary about saying that their devices relay health information, and most don't want their work to be regulated as medical technology by the Food and Drug Administration. This is why you alone are supposed to be in control of your own mind. One researcher used an implanted chip to spread a computer virus. An implant like this can connect to payment and security systems, as well as communication tools and so much more. Harbison says becoming a self-identified cyborg led him to found the Cyborg Foundation. In 2014, the Cyborg Foundation participated in the European Union Commission for Robotic Laws. They claim to fight for bodily sovereignty. This would apply if these implants didn't affect us all. They state, a person is entitled to dominion over intelligences and agents, and their activities, whether they are acting as permanent residents, visitors, registered aliens, trespassers, insurgents, or invaders within the person's body and its domain. Let us correct this. They are saying that AI, aliens, and demons should have the rights and support they need to do whatever they wish to your body. They are not talking about you. They are talking about protecting whatever and whoever wishes to rape or invade and trespass against you. Of course, with all of these technologies we have to ask the obvious, which Illinois Institute of Technology Professor Jeremy Harjek did, stating, so you're opening up a much larger privacy issue of, well, who owns where you go? Who owns what you do? And who owns what you buy? Are you entitled to that privacy? Or does that privacy not really exist? He answered his own questions at the end there. Privacy no longer exists. We gave it up long ago, chipped away by laws thanks to 9/11, which was orchestrated to give us the Patriot Act, SOPA, CISPA and all the rest, which have stripped us all of our privacy rights. With biohacking you do not gain super or smart anything. You simply become a droid? Soulless. You become nothing at all, but another worthless, good-for-nothing, government-owned and controlled weaponized spy machine. There will be a part 3 to this series over the coming week. This has been a message from the anonymous charity dated December 13, 2018. End of transmission.